Okay, just as a show of hands for brutal honesty, who owns Netflix here?
Oh, Netflix, no.
Oh, Netflix or ASML? Sorry.
Sorry, ASML. Sorry.
Oh, ASML, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
just me and Paul. Steve was threatening to buy it, but doesn't appear to.
Nope.
So, okay, I'll just give you the quick metrics then. So, net sales were up 10% year on year to 5.8 billion. They guided for 5.3 billion. Net bookings were at 8.9 billion for the quarter, which is about 44% year on year. Gross margin was 52%. They were guiding for 50%. Operating margin was 34%. Operating cash flow 1.2 billion. They shipped 12 units, would you believe?
12 new units. They have a big second-hand market.
Yeah, it's 12 of the EUVs. I am taking the mix slightly. 12 of the big bad boys. Guidance was quite strong as well. So they said net sales 6.4 billion. Gross margin said 49%. Yeah, they've said that before. The full year guidance they reckoned was going to be about 21.1 billion, which is about 13% growth versus 10%. It was the prior guidance. About 38 billion in order backlog. That's from the EUV and the immersion. That's about 85% of that. It was 33 billion last quarter, so they've added to that. They don't think 2023 is going to be a massive growth year for actual manufacturing at the moment, but they're going to stick to 60 EUV and 375 DUV capacity for 2023. And they reckon that by 2025 they'll be able to ship about 90 EUV, about 600 DUV, and they think they're going to be able to do 20 of their new high NA EUV tools, which is their brand new tool. So if they can stick to that, that will be a very impressive year. So a few bits and comments I've just picked out of the from Peter Wenning, and he said that he actually, because they get a lot of diagnostics from their tools, so they can see how much they're being used, and he said that actual tool utilization at the moment is actually below record levels. So record levels was 2 quarters away. This is actually below record levels now. So there has been a noticeable slowdown that they're reporting in. They have noted that there's been capex cuts at Intel, Micron, TSMC, Global Foundries, and SK Hynix now, which is their biggest sort of set of customers, and he thinks that will likely catch up with the market, semi-market as a whole. But he actually thinks ASML is pretty much covered, and it will fare a lot better than its peers because it has these massive lead times at the moment, this massive amount of backlog. If there are cancellations in the machinery, well, they've just got another machine that they can bring around in its place. So faster installation times at the moment that they're reporting, they're releasing deferred revenue quicker. This is because of the fast shipping program that we discussed last time, where they do a minimum amount of testing at ASML, then they ship it to the customer, and then they test it further there, refine it, change it, what have you, and then once the customer is happy, they get signed off, and that deferred revenue becomes recognised revenue. They've actually said that they might start to recognise revenue at the point of dispatch, in the same way that Nike has done that with some of its gear recently, but they will let us know if they do that. Obviously, when you do that, take those numbers that you get with a pinch of salt, because we're going to start seeing a lot higher numbers, which, maybe not be entirely correct. It's an accounting change rather than a business
I think
change.
they actually said they were going to do that because their on-site testing has done so well. I don't think they've had any returns.
Yeah,
or
they've had
like
very
that,
little
so.
problems yet. Yeah,
Yeah,
very little
so-
problems. I mean, it makes
so
a lot of sense to...
Yeah.
Fast shipping makes a lot of sense for me. If you're shipping something that's the size of a double-decker bus and you're doing it in a shipping container in 1,000 bits, there's a high likelihood that some of that is going to break in shipping. So it makes sense to get it on site, test it, and change it there.
Yeah. The scary part of that was, though, this is something that they'd never done before, so they wanted to get it out there, and they did have the theory, at least it sounds like they had the theory, that they were going to set these up, and some of them weren't going to go as well, and it might cause a fine, or it might cause some sort of refund in some way, or maybe even some extra tooling that has to go out. So they were worried about the cost going forward, but because they've had such little problems with this fast shipping method, they might just make it their normal method, and that would allow them to bring forward the revenues, with the hope that they won't have to claim some back, as it were, on the earnings report later, which was so positive. This thing is ridiculously positive in my eyes.
Yeah, and it was followed with another good report from Lam Research as well, which is a little bit further up the chain. It's not actually a chip maker. I think it's more in the testing section, Lam, off the top of my head, if I remember correctly. So they reported pretty strong results. They were up about 5 or 6% on the day after theirs. ASML was up about 9 and then up 3 the day after as well. So looking really, really positive for ASML. I couldn't really see anything in there that I could pick out that I could really say was problematic to me. They did mention that they... about their issues with shipping to China. They weren't really shipping to China.
They weren't bothered at all.
Especially not the new stuff. They were only shipping the old stuff. They're still allowed to ship the old stuff to China. So they're not particularly bothered about that. There's still no competition on the horizon that particularly frightens ASML. I think we've just got an unregulated monopoly that's printing money at the moment. Any comments?
Yes, most important. Sorry, Steve, do you go first?
No, I only had a couple of small points. One, as usual, two things. One which is sensible, one which is not. Here's the one which is kind of sensible. There was a bit in all of that, Steve, about a third of the way through where you said ASML, according to someone, is going to fare better than its peers. I wasn't quite sure what that meant. This is one of the reasons I don't own this stock. I kind of think of ASML as something that doesn't have any peers. That's kind of, part of the attraction of the thing. So I was wondering quite what that meant. The other thing, I'll get this out of the way now, is that, yes, of course, Intel is cutting its capex. It's got a dividend to maintain. Anyway, back to you.
So when it's talking about its peers, I think it's talking about the semiconductor market as a whole. So I think it's talking at every single level. So whereas they might think that something like Nvidia and AMD, which are already cutting their guidance because they're not being able to sell the things they want to sell, they don't think that that's going to filter all the way down to ASML. They think they're somewhat protected from it. Is my
so stuff a bit further along the chain then.
That's it. Yeah,
got it. Okay.
A little bit, but also non-EUV makers as well. So you've got your Nikon, and the other one that's from Korea as well. They're so far behind, it's ridiculous. But they are trying, and I think they are also. There was one company that decided, I can't even remember it now, it was so long ago, but one company decided, we're going to start EUV now. Nikon was the terrible one which decided to go the other way, and obviously it now only manufactures chips for itself, and it's that whole market's not doing very well at all. But there's, most of all for me, out of this thing is, when we fundamentally look at the stock, we want to look at its projections going forward and where it's going to end up and how important it's going to be for the future of humanity. Famously, ASML, I think we heard from Scottish Mortgage as quoted as one of the most important companies for humanity in the future, and I fully agree with that. But what we need to do is we need to see where that's actually going. A lot of people look at Tesla right now and say, okay, it's not just a car company, it's going to build this, it's going to build that, it's going to build this. But what comes next for ASML has always been the big problem, because it gets so hard to make smaller and smaller tooling for things. And now we've got this high NA technology, which only has just come in, and I can't tell you what NA means. I haven't got a clue, but I understand the process of widening the aperture of the light that comes in. I don't know how they do that. It's way above my pay grade.
Mirrors,
and it's well, cheers. Forgot mirrors. But
they have to use the flattest mirror ever. There's some crazy rules. Like even if you scaled it up to the size of Earth, the mirror they use, you'd still not be able to see any ridges in it. That's how flat these mirrors have to be.
It's ridiculous. I don't know. It's going from 0.33 NA to 0.5 NA, which is a wider aperture. But the idea, it's the same as, like, I'm a photographer. I don't know what the F means in f-stop. It's the same principle as that, as far as I can tell. So I don't feel too badly that I don't know the answer to that question, and I can't find the answer to that question. But this new high NA technology is now being sold to every single one of their customers. So every single one of their customers, Intel, TSMC, etc., have now started the ordering process on this high NA technology, which means it is being taken up, which means it is the next step in the future of the company, and I would say personally of humanity as well. So this is going to make chip making so much more impressive, and that is where I see the future revenues coming from. That's going to start happening in 2025, and that's going to keep on going all the way to 2030. This thing has revenue and earnings going as far as we want to see in an investment horizon, and that's what I just can't. It is trading at the premium still. I don't know what premium it's trading at. Is it in the 20s yet? And
it was about 28 when I was buying it again. So.
Okay, that's where it's probably a bit higher now, but it's been a hard time to find ASML at a good reasonable price. I don't think you're ever going to find it because this thing has such solid cash flow coming in for the future.
Interesting, just to add to the end of it, high NA, I think it's numerical aperture, but I don't know what that means in terms of
probably right.
In terms of how that changes. But there's an interesting interview on ASML's website with Martin van der Brink. He's the CTO. He's in his 60s, mid-60s, and he's quite a grumpy fellow from all reports. But he thinks high NA will be the very last EUV machines we get. He thinks the next thing that comes along will be something completely different. They'll have to basically start from scratch because he doesn't think they can get any better than NA, and he's obviously just about to retire. So there's a saying about old scientists, isn't there, that if they think things can get better, they're correct. If they think they can't get better, they're incorrect, isn't there? Something along those lines. I fucking should have researched this beforehand. I maybe might write that in the comments to correct myself, but there is an important saying about that. But yeah, he doesn't think
have
that
a thing. We do have a thing in humanity where we just think things are going to get bigger, better, faster, stronger.
Yeah. Well, he thinks it's all incremental now. He thinks this is a leap. So he thinks when you swap from, when they went to EUV machines, that was a leap. When they go from EUV to NA, this is also going to be a leap. But he now thinks this will be the last time we make the leap, and everything from this point onwards will be incremental. So interesting. I think he's an interesting fella, definitely. ASML's a bit of a beast. Steve, why don't you own it?
Partly because I'm too busy printing T-shirts with whatever you just said on it. But partly it goes into my too hard pile a little bit. It bothers me that I don't really know what numerical aperture means, which makes me feel like I don't understand this moat terribly well. I understand it's ahead technologically, but I feel like I've also seen other things be ahead technologically in this space. And the other issue I have slightly is that I've never quite had enough money to put into this available at one time to make this a significant position, and I don't really want 100 quid's worth of this stock.
Right, I've got the quote because I need to correct myself. It was Arthur C. Clarke. So it's when a distinguished but elderly scientist states that something is possible, he is almost certainly right, and when he states that something is impossible, he is probably wrong.
Excellent.
Yeah, this is. It just goes on the basis of we made the aeroplane in the 20s, and look how far it jumped, and we've always said it was always stopped there, and then we went to the moon and blah blah blah. So it's hard to see, it's hard to see where technology like this goes and what the next step is. But humans and we always find a way, and we seem to believe that we always find the way as well. We always think that it'll just get bigger and better and faster and stronger, and that's it. I know you're putting this in the too hard pile, Steve, but I think you're thinking about this too much.
Possibly.
I think sometimes we get wrapped up into this Buffettism of know what you own, and we feel like we have to know everything inside out. But as long as we know, I think sometimes the people that are involved, that we know they know what they're doing, and at least you've got a very basic outline of it. I think some companies it can lie outside of your circle of competence a little bit. I think you're never going to.
There's definitely some truth to that. I mean, I have something, I haven't actually checked recently, but 18 or so investments in something. I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly how many branches Citigroup has, so I take it that I don't know everything about every thing that I own. And I get the thought it's somewhat impressionistic, that it's a little bit of a feeling of I feel like I know enough about one thing and not about another, and that might be that isn't particularly coherent on my side of things, so that's quite possibly true. But when Steve asked me why I don't own it, I'm not sure. I kind of have a feeling that I don't get ASML in a certain way that I get some other things.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we all fall short of knowing the ins and outs of the stocks we have, and people can also look to us and say, he doesn't know the name of this person, he doesn't know the name of that person, and in truth, I think it, like you say, as long as you know the basic outline of why a company is very important and why you think the revenue and earnings are going to continue to grow, I don't think you fully need to know. I think these big analysts like to tell you that they've seen all of the stores in China for Starbucks and go, okay, yeah, I know this, and this, and I don't think you need to know sometimes.
I think it doesn't go much further beyond you need to know how they make money. If you understand how they make money and you can have a rough idea of how other people can try and take that money away from them, that's kind of the overview that you need to move on with something like ASML. I think if you was trying to get yourself into the science of how the high NA works, as interesting as it is, Asianometry on YouTube if you really want to know. But it's I think that might just be a little bit like looking a little bit too far. But